We gather together in different ways this morning. From computer screens and telephones, we gather reaching out across the wires, waving from a safe distance to come together in fellowship. From living room to front porch, we gather as we are able, ready to be of service to each other, to the world, ready to build the community of hope and of love. As we face this bright morning, we are apart, but we are together, offering our love, our commitment, our hope, and our prayers, in service to one another in this world. It is a new way, but an old way, that we come together in worship today.
It Feels Good to Be Yourself, a book about gender identity, written by Theresa Thorn, illustrated by Noah Grigni. This is Ruthie. She's a transgender girl. That means when she was born, everyone thought she was a boy, until she got a little older, old enough to tell everyone that she's actually a girl. Girl is Ruthie's gender identity. This is Ruthie's brother Javier. Javier is a cisgender boy. That means when Javier was born, everyone thought he was a boy, and as he grew older, it turned out everyone was right. He is a boy. Boy is Javier's gender identity. There are so many different ways to be a boy or a girl, too many to fit in a book. But not everyone feels like either a boy or a girl. Non-binary is a helpful word that can describe a kid who doesn't feel exactly like a boy or a girl. This is Ruthie's friend Alex. Alex is both a boy and a girl. When Alex was born, everyone thought Alex was a girl, but Alex is both boy and girl. This is Alex's gender identity. This is Alex's friend JJ. JJ is neither a boy nor a girl. Ever since JJ was very little, they never felt exactly like a boy or a girl. They just felt like themselves. This is JJ's gender identity. Alex and JJ are both non-binary. Just like there are so many different ways to be a boy or a girl, there are many different ways to be non-binary. Too many to put in a book. Some kids feel like girls, some kids feel like boys, some kids feel like a little bit of both, part boy, part girl. Some kids don't feel exactly like a boy or a girl. They feel like neither. Some kids feel their gender identity isn't always the same. It's changing. And even with all these possible ways to be, some kids don't feel like any of the words they know fit them exactly right. There are a never-ending number of ways to be yourself in the world. Whether you feel like a boy, a girl, both or neither, or if you describe yourself another way, that is your gender identity. It might match what people thought you were when you were born, or it might not. See, when you were born, you couldn't tell people who you were or how you felt. They looked at you and made a guess. Maybe they got it right, maybe they got it wrong. What a baby's body looks like when they're born can be a clue to what a baby's gender will be, but not always. When people guess wrong, it's okay to let them know. Ruthie was 5 when she told her parents, "I know you think I'm a boy, but really I feel like a girl." Oops, Ruthie was a girl all along. They just didn't know. When people guess right, it's also okay to let them know. Javier was 3.5 when he told his family, "I'm a boy. I like being a boy." You might feel like a boy. You might feel like a girl. You might feel like both boy and girl, or like neither. You might feel like your gender changes from day to day or from year to year. You might feel that none of these words describe you perfectly. You might not be sure yet. Maybe you're still figuring it out. Your feelings about your gender are real. Listen to your heart. No matter what your gender identity is, you are okay exactly the way you are, and you are loved. It feels good to be yourself, doesn't it?
Please recite with me our shared affirmation of mission. This fellowship is a welcoming, diverse, and nurturing beloved community that promotes progressive religious thought and practice to create a more loving, just, and sustainable world.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on turning back, never turning back. Gonna keep on moving proudly, keep on moving proudly, keep on moving proudly, never turning back, never turning back. Gonna keep on singing loudly, keep on singing loudly, keep on singing loudly, never turning back, never turning back. Gonna keep on loving boldly, keep on loving boldly, keep on loving boldly, never turning back, never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, never turning back, never turning back, never turning back, never turning back.
There is a spark that passes between us, whether we are together in person or connected with each other virtually. This spark is meant to light our way, and it brings us to this place at which we gather to be nourished and renewed by our beloved community.
We call this light before us in hope that we may always remain a strong community, working together to make the world a better place.
Dwayne Wade, a professional basketball star who retired last season after a 16-year career in the NBA, made headlines back in February because of an interview he gave with talk show host Ellen DeGeneres. Wade didn't make headlines for sharing about bringing Team USA to Olympic gold or for winning 3 NBA championships, a record. No, he made news because he was talking about his daughter, Zaya, age 12, who is transgender. Zaya's family lives life in the public eye. Her dad is a professional basketball player, and her stepmom is the leading actress, Gabrielle Union. Zaya came out to her family as transgender this past year. In the interview, Wade expressed his need to learn more about transgender identities to provide understanding and support for his child. He explained that he and his wife reached out to, quote, every relationship we have, end quote, to get support and information, as well as to the advocacy group GLISTEN that supports young people with diverse genders and sexual orientations. Wade and DeGeneres agreed that in listening to his child, in being affirming, and in seeking support, he was expressing unconditional love. Wade was expressing love in action. In one of the most poignant moments of the interview, he said, quote, "Once Zion came home and said, 'Call me Zaya, I am ready to take this on,' I looked at her and said, 'You are a leader.'" End quote. And he talked about how at age 12 that he had a big role in how she appears as a leader, but one day it would be her voice coming through. Now, a few days after the interview with Ellen aired, Wade and Union released a video of Zaya talking about herself. And I want to play it for you because I believe in Wade's statement. His daughter is a leader. Let's listen to her. Let's take her lead.
I would say, don't even think about that. Just be true to yourself, because are you really even, what's the point of being on this earth if you're going to try to be someone you're not? It's like you're not even living as yourself, which is like the dumbest concept to me. It's just be true and don't really care what the stereotypical way of being you is.
Even when people are being mean, even when people are getting hurt because they're trying to be themselves, and even through that, you still want people to make sure that they live their truth.
Yeah, I think I know it can get tough, definitely. Yeah, but I think you push through and you be the best you, and especially more recently, it's become a more accepting. Even though there's obviously a lot of people out there who still are set more in the back in their days way of mind. But I think even through hard times, just you gotta just push through. I mean, it's worth it. I feel like it's very worth it when you reach that point of yourself.
I'm feeling free.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like you.
Yeah.
Feeling like you don't have to hide.
You could look in the mirror and say hi to yourself. Nice to meet you. Instead of I don't really know who I am. It's like a full identity crisis. Yeah.
Oh, that look at the end of the video, that look of love on Dwayne Wade's face. He knows the truth of his daughter's words. And over 8 million people have heard that video because he and Zaya had the courage to share it. 8 million people, including young people, tuning in and experiencing someone who looks like them expressing herself, being heard by her family, and being loved for who she is. LGBTQ people in my generation and older are tuning in and experiencing healing, imagining what it would have been like to be parented with that kind of affirming love in our own childhoods. Zaya, your words let us know you are a leader. And seeing you be so perfectly, innocently 12 years old lets us know that you also need our protection. Because the internet is now also home of far too many videos of people responding to your beautiful truth with their hatred, disgust, or outrage. And that puts your perfection, your aliveness at risk. Your aliveness at risk. By hate speech, by bullying, by legislation. Poetry and disability rights advocate Laura Hershey writes in a poem called Telling. What you risk telling your story. You will bore them. Your voice will break, your ink spill and stain your coat. No one will understand. Their eyes become fences. You will park yourself on the outside, your differentness once and for all revealed. dangerous. The names you give yourself will become epithets. Those with power can afford to tell their story or not. Those without power risk everything to tell their stories and must. Someone, somewhere will hear your story and decide to fight, to live, to refuse, to compromise. Someone else will tell her own story, risking everything. My friends, let this be a space where all stories can be told and heard, a space where we decide to fight for one another. Protect Trans Kids is a social media hashtag meant to call us to fight for the safety of trans kids. Trans kids, non-binary kids, gender non-conforming kids, genderqueer kids, those ones right here in your congregation, your local schools and playgrounds, and the trans adults that are right here too, who were once trans kids. Right now, the lives of all trans folks are at risk because of the harm that comes with hate speech, bullying, and legislation. And trans kids and youth are particularly vulnerable in this hostile climate. An organization fighting to protect trans kids is the Trevor Project. They run a text and chat crisis service, as well as a telephone hotline for LGBTQ+ youth who are in crisis. These services are available 24/7. In 2019, the Trevor Project surveyed over 30,000 LGBTQ identified youth ages 13 to 24 about their mental and emotional health. The results tell us that the well-being and lives of trans kids are indeed at risk. In the survey, 68% of youth reported in the last 2 weeks symptoms of anxiety. 55% reported symptoms of depression in the last 2 weeks. Of trans and non-binary youth, over 52% seriously considered suicide in the last 12 months. 1 out of 5 trans and non-binary young people reported making an attempt. And the age group most likely to attempt suicide are those ages 13 to 17. The survey also shows that LGBTQ+ youth know that mental health counseling can make a difference. It can keep them from a crisis point. Yet, 46% surveyed said that they wanted help and couldn't access it. Working for healthcare for all, that is LGBTQ inclusive, that is inclusive of mental health, that is life-saving advocacy work. That is the work of protecting trans kids. And here is some hopeful truth discovered from the survey. It asked youth about supportive people and places in their lives. And they found that having even one highly supportive person in a youth's life reduces their risk of attempting suicide. Furthermore, transgender and non-binary youth who shared that their pronouns are respected by all or most of the people in their lives, they attempted suicide at half the rates of those who did not have their pronouns respected. Our words and our actions are so powerful. They can be life-saving. What does it look like to protect trans kids? What does it mean? First, we listen and we learn. And then we defend and we fight. When we listen to trans and non-binary and genderqueer children, we are performing a radical action of listening to children. like Dwayne Wade, we can get resources to learn how to listen better, learn how to show support, and we can find out about practical matters like how to access healthcare that will affirm our child's gender. The Trans Youth Equality Foundation, a national organization based in Maine, is an excellent resource for families seeking support and guidance. If we are not trans, non-binary, or gender non-conforming, we can acknowledge that we come to this work as allies. And even when we embody one or more of those identities, we can recognize that our experiences and our needs are our own and different than someone else's. We can bring humility and admit what we don't know and that there is more to know. I identify as a queer ally to transgender non-conforming and non-binary folks. And I invite my friends and neighbors who embody those identities every day to please let me know when my words are inaccurate, I have a misunderstanding, or I'm causing harm, so that I can do better. In the words of Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. So how do we protect? How do we defend? Well, one way is to arm ourselves with knowledge to respond to the misinformed and to the bullies, whether they're in our workplace or they're in our state legislatures or in the halls of Congress. We can respond to the people in our families or our workplaces who crinkle up their noses and say, aren't kids too young to make that decision? Being an ally means having enough information to engage in dialogues across difference. So let me equip you on that first question. Aren't kids too young? Well, I listened to an interview with advocate and father Wayne Maines as he tearfully recounted about his daughter's suffering at age 4. The intense anxiety and confusion she felt being asked to live as a boy when she felt sure she was a girl. That kind of anxiety and confusion that, when left untreated, puts youth at risk for mental health crisis. Fortunately, Wayne Maines listened to his daughter, and she has grown up to become a celebrity, a star on a network TV show called Supergirl, playing the first transgender superhero in the superhero universe, an inspiration to thousands of young people, just like Zaya Wade. From my own experience, 10 years as a preschool teacher, I feel in my heart that kids are not too young, because between ages 3 and 5 is when a child is exploring what the culture says about gender. One of the reasons why pretend and dress up are so important forms of play, such important forms of play for kids that age. When a child is born a boy and says, I'm a boy at age 5, we do not ask him to wait until he is older to be sure. For Wayne's daughter and kids like her, accessing healthcare to support a gender confirmation, also called a transition, is life-saving care. And would we say to any parent whose child was suffering from a life-threatening illness that maybe you should wait to find a treatment until they're a little bit older, when we know there's a treatment right here? Surely these decisions for parents are not easy. But when we can be advocates alongside families who are asking those questions, making those decisions, we are protecting trans kids. We are using our position as allies and advocates to protect trans kids and their families. Now, to protect means not only to defend when a threat arises, but to take action to prevent a threat. When we express that as Unitarian Universalists, we call it practicing justice, equity, and compassion in human relationships. It is an active call. And for each of us, protecting trans kids will take form in a unique way. We can each do the work, each in our own way. That could be in your church, your community, or your state. There are so many things we can do to defend and protect transgender, non-binary, and genderqueer children and youth. On the personal level, first, we can listen and learn. Let's always start there. We can best do so by getting to know trans kids and their parents in our community. And if you think you don't know any trans kids, you can always Google trans kids, and many professionally filmed documentary clips will come up where you can listen to interviews with trans kids and their parents talking about their experiences. For the families in our lives, we can offer personal support, being a trusted babysitter or someone who can help with rides and arrangements for visits to trans-inclusive healthcare providers. We can protect the trans kids and youth in our lives. We can protect the non-binary and gender non-conforming youth in our lives by being an adult who affirms a young person's pronouns, who offers unconditional love and acceptance if pronouns change, hairstyles change, as young people come to a self-understanding of gender identity. When we know better, we can start to ask better questions. Questions that equip us to notice opportunities to protect trans kids in places in our community where we're already active. Our child's school, a place of business, a volunteer gig. We might be able to start asking the question, is this space a trans-inclusive space? What non-discrimination policies are in place to protect trans kids from bullying and to affirm their identities through access to, say, sports programs that fit their gender identity? We can become advocates for schools and local libraries to stock books like the one we'll hear today about gender identity. We can reimagine how we collect data by eliminating the checkboxes that say male and female and leaving open-ended spaces for clients, students, customers to describe their gender identity and pronouns. Too often, efforts to make changes like these fall on trans folks and their loved ones. At the same time, when seeking changes, especially at the community level, it is crucial to follow the lead of trans folks as you consider being active in these ways. And consider that in raising questions like these in settings that are hostile towards trans people can in fact put trans people at risk for retaliation and harassment. So we need to be mindful to move alongside and with the trans community as allies, right? And taking their lead is critical, crucial. And there are changes that you can advocate for as an ally right away. In our congregations, for example, we can ask those questions, and we can consider some other possibilities, such as offering the education program called Our Whole Lives that educates children and adults of all ages about topics of sexuality and gender identity. This program can be a resource for the greater community, not just the congregation. In our churches, we can make sure that our social justice committees are connected with local and statewide organizations that work to defend and protect trans kids and youth. I was heartened to learn that Arizona has a blossoming of new groups to advocate for and protect trans adults and youth, in addition to a number of LGBTQ advocacy groups. As a congregation or as individuals, we can support these organizations by attending events and actions, becoming a regular volunteer, offering in-kind services, or becoming a donor. Right here in the Verde Valley, the local group called Sedona Pride and a group for loved ones of LGBTQ folks called PFLAG offer college scholarships to local young people. Phoenix-based LGBTQ+ Youth Center 1 and 10 hosts gatherings for LGBTQ+ youth at its satellite locations in Prescott and Flagstaff. Statewide, the Arizona Trans Alliance and Trans Spectrum of Arizona offer peer support and advocacy for trans and non-binary folks. the Arizona Trans Youth and Parent Organization, whose acronym is AZ-TYPO, educates and advocates for families of trans kids and youth. It also hosts trainings for schools and organizations on being trans inclusive. Then there's Equality Arizona, who work to promote legislative advocacy for LGBTQ rights at the state level. And there are many more, I'm just highlighting a few. So really, for each of us, protecting trans kids will take form in a unique and personal way. We can each do this work, each in our own ways. And like Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we can do better. Our actions, small and large, can be life-saving. So I want to close by offering thanks to Zaya Wade for being a leader. Zaya, because you have the courage to tell your truth, to look in the mirror and be brave enough to be your true self. You call upon us to be leaders too. May the courage to look in the mirror come to each of us, and may we discover the values that guide each one of us to love you, to defend you, and to protect you. With the deepest love, the wisest hearts, and the strongest spirits. May it be so, my friends. May it be so.
I won't pretend that I could ever understand what it must feel like to be born in a body that you know just doesn't belong to who you are. But I do understand exactly what it feels like to be hated for nothing more than being who I know that I am. And I will always be on your side. J. Warren Welch.
Breath of Life by Dana Falls. I breathe in all that is awareness, expanding to take everything in, as if my heart beats the world into being. From the unnamed vastness beneath the mind, I breathe my way into wholeness and healing. Inhalation, exhalation. Each breath a yes, and a letting go, a journey, and a coming home. Now is the time for silent meditation.
We have been warmed by fires we did not build. We have drunk at wells we did not dig. In gratitude of our many blessings and many needs, this morning's offering for this community will now be received.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late, oh please don't hesitate, put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Another day goes by and still the children cry. Put a little love in your heart. If you want the world to know we won't let hatred grow, put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Let's just wait and see. Oh, yeah. Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. And I hope when you decide kindness will be your guide, put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Let's just wait and see. Put a little love in your heart. Oh yeah, sing it. Put a little love in your heart. Ooh yeah. Put a little love in your heart. Ooh baby. Put a little love in your heart each and every day. Put a little love in your heart. Think of your fellow man. Put a little love in your heart. Lend her a helping hand. Put a little love in your heart. Yeah. Put a little love in your heart. Oh yeah. Put a little love in your heart. Ooh, put a little love in your heart each and every day. Put a little love in your. There's gotta be a better way. Put a little love in your. Don't you think it's time we start? Put a little love in your heart. Ooh yeah. Put a little love in your. Think of your fellow man. Put a little love in your. Let him a helping hand. Put a little love in your. Ooh, it's getting late. Put a little love. Please don't hesitate. Put a little love. Put a little love. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Ooh, take a good look around. Put a little love in your heart. And if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. Ooh, I hope when you decide kindness will be your guide.